Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me on a beautiful day here at the AROS Group, where I've come to collect my project car, the Red Edition Ford Focus RS, which now has its last upgrade, the last significant modification that's being made to improve the performance of the brakes. We're going to head inside where they have a host of fantastic cars to take a look at, along with my RS, which now has Nashin Cup Series performance brakes. We'll be able to compare them with the originals. And of course, as you can see, I've driven up here in the Heritage RS. We will take the two cars back home later on to the storage to experience what the new drive is like. This car has been quite a project. We've done the exterior, the interior, the engine upgrades to around 500 horsepower with Mountune, but now it has the stopping power to match. So let's head straight on in then and check it out. Just quickly though, before we go inside to take a look at the Red, the Heritage RS has the completely stock factory brake system from Ford for the Mark III Focus RS. So down here, we've got the 4-pot brakes, we've got the 350mm discs. Those aren't actually the original calipers. The Heritage, as well as the Red, both start with some unpainted calipers, a satin silver finish, but in the case of this, I kept those for originality, got a second set, so they are the same as the ones it comes with, but obviously painted in teak orange to match with the bodywork of the car and looking a lot smarter. But that's the completely standard setup that you have on the Focus RS. So let's come through and see now what the Red has been upgraded to. And don't forget that the car starts life with about 350 horsepower. My Red RS has been substantially upgraded. The modifications and internals replaced and upgraded by Mountune to almost 500 horsepower. Of course, with that increase, it is very important as well to have more stopping power. So we've got some of the parts to check out in just a moment, some of the stock parts and some of the new parts as well. And also, there are some pretty cool cars around. But here in front of me then, we have the Red RS with its newly upgraded brakes. In fact, let me come round. This car obviously has had a whole host of modifications from the inside to the exterior, lots of small parts. And now, if we come in and check these out, the new brakes as well. 380mm discs, 6-pot forged monoblock calipers, and obviously sitting behind the BBS CIR lightweight wheels and the Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tyres, looking like a very, very cool setup. In fact, they look massively, massively cooler, even just standing here. Of course, the caliper in black with the Nashin logo there, in red on those as well, and the combination with these wheels looking very, very nice. Obviously the car is up on the ramps at the moment. Just a quick reminder of some of the changes. The interior redone by Proto Trim, the exterior, the carbon aero package from Ventus Veloce. We've added the Anderson composites, carbon fenders, and then these are topaz skin to match with the race red on the rest of the car. It's one of only 300 Red Editions here in the UK, and then at the front you can see the Mountune intercooler, but the engine heavily, heavily reworked with everything that's going on there. And of course, lots of small things. Now we've got carbon fiber mirror caps, the carbon steering wheel, and obviously the wheel and tyre setup, all very, very nice. So we'll come and talk about, well, the M4 GTS, the M2 Competition, the Z4 GT3, some of the Subarus that are around as well very shortly. But to show you just here, we have some examples of the various parts then, the original caliper and disc, and then the new disc and caliper as well. This is the Cup Series, so very much the most high-performing brakes that Nashin offer in terms of a road car. They're fitted with the road pads, the sport pads as they're called, so good for some track driving, but not going completely overkill, not back-to-back laps, for example. But you can see quite significantly the differences between them. Obviously, the standard caliper, as you can see here, holding the pads just inside it, painted in black as opposed to the standard silver, as I said they originally came, but the 4-pot brakes now up to the 6 pots. So this is a much larger caliper, but of course much more compact in the way it goes about it, and no heavier as a result. It's forged from a single block. You can see the way the design is shaped. Of course, this is about cooling. Upgrading the brakes is to ensure that when they do get warmer, when they're going through various heat cycles, they don't ultimately lose their stopping power. Having more braking performance, obviously on a track like the Nürburgring Nordschleife, for example, is really very important. And you can see how much more focus is made here on the cooling aspects in terms of the airflow through. Plus, they just happen to look really nice. These are the smaller 4-pot calipers. Wow, that weighs next to nothing. That is very, very light. Of course, not quite as much power, obviously, as the 6 pots. We've got some of the numbers here. So, for example, the caliper saving 1.2 kilos. The disc is ever so slightly heavier, but of course, it's also quite a bit larger, from the 350 mils up to the 380 mils as they offer. But overall, basically the same kind of total weight per side of the car, but with more braking performance as a result. Plus, I mean, just look at them. They look really, really cool in the process as well. Obviously, that's quite a heavy piece overall. Just to guess a bit more information here, if you're curious as to the exact details of the 6 Piston Cup Series calipers and brakes that we have going on the car. But these, yes, I mean, you can see the difference. It's immediately kind of obvious from the standard, the upgrade in the case of this, chasing performance. Now let me just quickly come and show you before we take this out. We're going to get it fired up. Of course, it's got the X-Force Varex exhaust system. Going to have some fun driving it in just a moment. But what else we've got here? Part of the MMR performance, which comes after AROS Group, where we are. MMR performance, obviously, heavily on the BMW front. We've got the M4 GTS, the limited special edition, running on different wheels, different springs. Sitting there looking very cool, the hardcore version of the M4. The Z4 GT3, full race car, obviously GT3 series race car that I believe they're going to be travelling around with, doing some very serious stuff with. And in fact, the entire body is exposed carbon. This thing is a proper Batmobile, absolutely menacing. The M2 competition, again, having a lot of work done to it, some heavy modifications going on under the skin as well with that. Then this car, it's actually pretty cool. Subaru rally car. This was actually driven by Valentino Rossi in the New Zealand rally at one stage, but it's done various bits and pieces and currently I think about to be maybe restored as well, but quite different from the standard Subarus. They do a lot of work with Subarus up here too. In the case of the Red RS though, coming back over here, you might be wondering about the front axle and the rear axle. We haven't actually changed the brakes back here at all, the completely standard setup. Of course, that is all down to the weight distribution of the car. Obviously, there isn't really much going on in the back of this. The engine is up front, driver sitting just behind the axle. Basically, the most important thing to change is what you've got going on for the front wheels. In the case of this, that is exactly what we have done. So this is going to be quite fun to push in anger. Hopefully I won't have to wait too long until I can get it out to the Nürburgring Nordschleife to drive it back on the green hell and experience some of the power and some of the other modifications, and of course now the braking. For the time being, we'll need to get it fired up, take the car on out and go for a drive, first drive with this setup to see what it's like. And down it goes. Always kind of cool actually to see, obviously. It comes and sits at the more normal height. We're still on the stock suspension setup, but yeah, that looks really nice. Back into life. Of course, you can control the valve. Ooh, nice little pops and burbles there. Makes some cool sounds, this car. And emerging out of the workshop, which means, of course, we will have the 2 RSs side by side here. And in fact, you can see the difference with the brakes immediately when you're standing here. Just how significantly they have been upgraded. And the combination with the wheels as well, just massive change. Obviously the Heritage though, very special car that needs to stay standard. But yeah, looking good together. Away we go then, and driving this is quite a different proposition from the Heritage RS. You feel it instantly, and of course I've not driven this car for the last couple of months. It's been a while since, well, it was off doing a few different things, photo shoots, some drives and stuff, and then of course now getting the brakes fitted. Right, obviously the thing about upgrading brakes is that you don't want the car to instantly kind of slam. You need to increase the longevity and of course give yourself more stopping power when you're out on a track under different temperature cycles. Oh, the turbo noise. And we're just in normal mode at the moment. But yes, obviously, I mean, normal driving feels good as it should. The guys have done a few miles just to bed in the brakes. I need to be a bit aware of that as well. Obviously, no high speed, full stamping on them until they've had time to fully bed in. Where are we headed? Out this way. Some nice countryside roads. In fact, let's pop the car into sport mode. There we go. Confirm that. Yeah. It changes the throttle feel so much. And the bangs. Well, I'm not going to complain about a little bit of countryside road driving. Oh, this thing. There are quite a few things about this car that I really love. You can just sense how much power it has though. The biggest thing about the brakes is that I'm not really going to be able to tell these improvements until I'm driving in an environment where you start to put them through the heat cycles, to test them a little bit more, and obviously to get them up and warm, which of course happens particularly if you were to go out, let's say, onto a Grand Prix track somewhere, even the Nürburgring GP circuit itself. And if I did that, that's where I'd want to pop on the race pads as opposed to the sports pads that this car has at the moment. It's a lot of fun. Tight, twisty roads. This is where hot hatches come into their own. This is where this kind of car is just absolutely perfect to be driving. I've actually missed this a lot. I've missed this an awful lot, and I just cannot wait now to get it out and drive it somewhere proper, you know, somewhere like the Nürburgring. That's kind of been the plan. I wanted to keep it always usable. That's why we've still got the rear seats, no seat delete or anything like that. A usable car, but a usable car very much honed in for some track performance. Yeah, those constant pops and bangs. Oh, endless fun. Last little bit of acceleration between roundabouts before we get back onto the motorway. The feel of the turbo is nuts. It's a downshift. Oh yes. Get one through the tunnel. Oh, when it comes to cars just to have fun with, this is definitely winning the charge. The south, down towards London. Okay, out onto the motorway as we go. We will get it back into comfort mode, onto the cruise control, and take it easy. Jump ahead a bit, and I am back in the storage with the Schmeemobiles. Now, I've just been moving cars around a bit. Normally, when I get back with a car, I just put it in whichever space is empty, but I kind of just organised them, make sure everything fires up, everything's running properly, sorted things out. Now we're back on their trickle chargers, but it means we've got the Red RS, which I will be taking home from here, the Heritage and the Ford GT all together at the moment. Then we've got the new take on the Blue Crew with the Senna, the GT8 and the SLS Black Series in Mystic Blue. 3 cars I consider permanent in the collection in their 3 different shades of blue, and some of you who have been following the channel for a while might remember the original Blue Crew, which was my McLaren 675 LT Coupe in the exact same colour as the Senna, my Cayman GT4, which I sold for the GT8, that was in sapphire blue. The GT8's cobalt blue is pretty similar, and then also my Ferrari FF, which was in Ferrari's Le Mans blue, very similar to the Mystic Blue on the SLS Black Series. So those are pretty cool, all lined up now together. And then we do have the 2 beastly AMG cars like this as well, the SLS Black alongside the GTR Pro. I cannot wait to drive those back to back to experience what they are all about. The Red RS though, well, a bit due to schedules and things being cancelled and all my travels and everything, hasn't been out in anger as much as I would like it to up to this point. Now, I know a project car is never really complete. You never do everything. You're always looking at what else you could add. But when I bought this car 2 years ago, after I had owned my nitrous blue Focus RS for 2 years up to that point, we had a list, kind of a hit list of the modifications I'd like to make, and those are now complete. The things that I wanted to do up front are now all done with the addition of the new brakes from Nashin, thanks to the AROS Group. So this car is going to have some fun in the future, and I cannot wait. It will be driven properly. In fact, well, it's been around the ring before. That's been around the ring, that's been around the ring, that's been around the ring. Obviously the 2 Mercs I've only recently bought, so those haven't yet, and the Heritage hasn't, but I do try to take all of the cars to go have some fun, and this, well, it's been built up to be perfect in that environment, so I'm hoping I'm going to have the opportunity before long to get this over and really drive it as intended. Now, another quick thing, well, I've been plugging all of the cars into chargers. Down here, big thanks to Ctek, who have hooked me up with a Golf Special Edition Ctek Charger for the Heritage RS. I never had a charger for this car, which wasn't the wisest thing in the world. Trickle chargers, obviously it's not a hybrid or electric car. It's about keeping the battery juiced up. Obviously it's working, it's got a computer behind it to make sure that it doesn't overdo it or anything like that. Just means the car doesn't go flat. Obviously most of the supercars come with them. So the Ford GT, for example, comes with the Ford Performance Charger, which is a Ctek Charger, branded up as Ford. That comes with the car. Same with the Senna. The Senna has a Ctek McLaren Charger, just around this side at the moment, all branded up. But it's cool to have the Golf one for the Heritage RS, which doesn't officially have its own charger, I guess, from factory, because, well, it's a different kind of car. These cars, they expect you to not drive all that frequently. But it is very colourful. The rainbow skittles at the moment. I guess the GTR Pro doesn't really count, but everything else, a splash of colour here in the garage. So that's it, I think, pretty much for today. Outing with the Red RS. Like I say, 100 miles or so to drive it back home. The brakes are now bedded in, but you can't really tell the difference on motorway cruising. It needs to be driven a little bit harder before we can enjoy and experience what that's all about, which will hopefully not be in all that long. So thank you very much for watching. As always, guys, I appreciate your support, but that's it for this time, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers.